This demonstration shows you how to create a graphical user interface with Guide, MATLAB's graphical user interface development environment. To start Guide, either click here on the toolbar or type Guide in the command window. The Guide Quick Start dialog lets you begin with some pre-built templates. We will use the default blank GUI template. The Guide Layout Editor that appears lets you design the layout of your GUI. You build your GUI from a collection of components available in the palette here. You can show the names of the components with the Preferences option. Available controls include push buttons, sliders, radio buttons, checkboxes, editable text and static text. There are pop-up menus, list boxes and toggle buttons. You can add axes to contain your MATLAB plots. There are panels to let you group controls and create hierarchy in your GUI. The button group lets you create mutually exclusive radio buttons. And you can add ActiveX controls. The GUI that we will create will allow our user to choose from one of 3 datasets and display it with one of 3 plot types. Let's first resize the GUI. This default blank template creates a final GUI that is a fixed size and non-resizable. But we can change this by modifying the GUI options in the Tools menu. We design the GUI by selecting controls from the palette on the left and placing them in the required position. Let's first add some push buttons. We can duplicate existing controls using the right-click menu. Next we will add a panel to contain our buttons. This makes it easier to manipulate them as a group. We will now move our buttons onto the panel. We will continue adding components, including a static text box, a pop-up list, and axes. We can align and distribute objects. We can also make small adjustments to an object's position using the arrow keys. When we move a panel, all its contents move too. Let's now change a few properties of the GUI by opening the Property Inspector, which can be accessed by right-clicking objects or from the View menu. The Property Inspector enables you to view and set object properties. First, we will change the name property of the GUI. This is what is displayed in the GUI title. Next, we will change the title of the panel. There are a number of important properties you should set on all UI controls, such as buttons. Set the string property to the text that you want to appear on the push button. We will repeat this for the other controls. You set the string property of a pop-up menu to contain each of the options you want it to display. The tag property of a UI control provides it with a unique identifier to help you remember which one it is. Guide uses the tag property to name the control's generated M-code function. We will repeat this for the other controls. At this point, you can activate the GUI. Activating the GUI generates the application M file and a fig file and displays the GUI. Guide now prompts you to save the layout. Here is what the GUI looks like so far. This M file is created by Guide to implement the GUI. It contains automatically generated code, plus space for you to add custom code that is run when controls are selected. We will now enter this custom code known as callback functions. The Show Functions button will help you navigate the M file to each callback. We will go to the Open function routine, which is called first when the GUI runs. In this function, we can load or create data which is to be used in the GUI, and we can do some initial plotting. To share data within the GUI, you use the handles structure, which is passed between functions. Here we will define 3 datasets and create an initial plot. This auto-generated line specifies what is returned as an output argument when the GUI is called. This line at the end is required to update the handles data structure. We can look at the created GUI again. When a GUI is complete and running, and a user clicks on a user interface control, such as a push button, MATLAB executes the control's callback function. To navigate to the UI control's callback function in the generated M code, you can either use the Show Functions button in the editor, or you can select it from the context menu in the Layout editor. For the first push button labeled Surf, we will specify that a surface plot of the currently selected data be created. We will repeat this for the other callbacks. The pop-up menu enables the GUI user to select the data to plot. Depending on which menu option is selected, the GUI will set the current data to one of the 3 datasets created before. We then need to update the handles data structure once again. The GUI is now fully functional and we can activate it. We can test that it operates correctly. We can launch the GUI from the command line or from an M file. That concludes the demonstration. You can try these examples in MATLAB now, or watch one of the other videos.